Hello and welcome. What I'd like to do in this video is to configure a Cisco router as a DHCP server. The first thing we have to do in the process is to exclude the addresses that we don't want DHCP to assign. If we take a look at the router, and what we're going to do on this one is on this area here, these two subnets that we have machines on, we're going to assign dynamic addresses. And if we look at this thing, you can see them here, but let's just go into the router itself and take a good look. Show IP interface brief, and we see that 192.168.10.1 and 11.1 are in use on the interfaces. We don't want to assign those two addresses. So the first thing we need to do is to get into config mode. Get into config mode and exclude those addresses. IP DHCP excluded address 192.168.10.1, and let's go. That's the lower one, and if we use the question mark help here, the high address, so let's go to 192.168.10.10 just to have a range of addresses that we're not assigning. We also need to do the same thing on the 11 address. I'm just going to use the repeat key, the up arrow key, and change the network 10 address to an 11 address. The next step will be to configure the pool, or in this case pools. So let's do an IP DHCP pool R1, which is the router that we're on, as you can see up here. R1 FA0, and I guess if I put the D in front of DHCP, it probably would work better, wouldn't it? IP DHCP, not DCHP. So IP DHCP pool, and then we're going to assign a network 192.168.10.0.255.255.255.0, and then we'll need a DNS server. DNS server, we're going to just put an address in here. This is not a real server. 192.168.11.5, and then we need a default router or a default gateway, 192.168.10.1, and that should take care of the 10 address. The next step will be to configure the next address. So we're going to go to a different pool, IP DHCP, got to spell right this time, pool R1 FA1, and it's going to be network 192.168.11.0.255.255.255.0, and DNS server will do the same thing, 192.168.11.5, and the default router in our case is going to be 11.1, 192.168.11.1. So that should take care of our configuration. I guess the way we can see if it's actually working, let's go to one of these machines, and in the command prompt, get on the right keys, IP config, we got 11.11. If you remember, we excluded 192.168 11.1 to 11.10, so 11.1 should in fact be our first address. Let's go check the other one and see if it is also working. Do an IP config here, and we got the 10.11, which is exactly what we should have. The IP configuration here is DHCP dynamic, and these are the addresses that are going. All of the things that we configured. The 10.11 starts with the default gateway and the DNS server that we configured. With that, I'm going to conclude this with the DHCP configuration. Thank you for watching, and I hope this has been useful.